Okay, the time on the clock is going to be 10. Um, Now let's continue this journey into the realm of AI in language education with our next speaker, Mr. Wilson Hong. Mr. Wilson Hong, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you
Okay.
allow me to share my camera, maybe?
Okay, right. You have closed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. So let me share some of your biographical details with the audience. I request all the audience to be kindly seated and maintain the silence. We'll hear from Mr. Wilson Hong, a PhD candidate from University College London, UK. Mr. Hong's plenary speech is titled Harnessing the Power of AI in ESL and EFL Teaching and Learning. Wilson Hong is the Regent for undergraduate and postgraduate thesis and lecturer at Macau Institute for Tourism Studies. Wow, amazing. He is an instructor at the University of Macau and the president of Macau Education Development Research Association. Wilson has extensive English teaching experience both at Macau and in the UK and has been involved in teacher training and supervision. Wilson is currently a PhD candidate in applied linguistics at University College London. He has published over 20 journal articles, mostly related to the language education and IT in education, as well as academic and non-academic books. He specializes in eye tracking and is an editorial board member of Frontiers in Education, Frontiers in Psychology, Asian EFL Journal, and Journal of Education Technology and Innovation, etc. So here, in a round of applause, we welcome Mr. Wilson Hong here for the plenary speech.
Okay, thank you very much for the kind introduction. I was really impressed by Dr. Koska's presentation, which basically covered quite a number of things that I'm going to talk about. For a few things, for example, flipped learning, probably I can talk less about it. I'll spend more time on other issues. And also, I will further elaborate on some of the things that teachers, faculty members, students, and also the school can consider when using AI, especially at an institute level, whether AI should be allowed or not. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to begin. Here are a rough sketch of all the topics that I'm going to cover, beginning with a bit of background information. Now, I know that this is already the second day of the presentation of the conference, and there are a lot of other presentations that must have introduced AI already. So I'm going to be very brief about the background, and I'll talk more about personalized learning and a little bit about the considerations for using AI and some of the things that can be done. So I'll also share some of the experience that I have as a lecturer and also as the regent for thesis at my institute. So a little bit of background information. I'm sure you know all of these already by now, that AI is based on a large language model, and you can communicate with AI using natural language. That's the fundamental game changer, right? People talk about the how it can be harnessed by everyone who can speak a language, right? So now, as Dr. Koska mentioned just now, AI does not really understand what it says, despite its apparent quick understanding and being able to generate content very quickly. It really does not understand what it says. And I refer to French, one of the earliest philologists, who was among the first who identified that language actually consists of multiple layers of meaning, right? So we have on the surface layer some symbols, and we have underneath some references at least, right? So for a sentence like Sam is John, it totally makes sense to us because we can say that a person can have two names, but for AI, probably it would not make sense because that would refer to two different things, right? Or two different people. So it's very similar to the autocomplete functionality of the phones that you're using, or the some other online like search tools that you use. When you type one word, two words, it will prompt some new words, that are most likely being typed by others who type the first one or two words. Now, this is a common a typical example that I give to the audience when I talk about the intelligence or the the non-capability of AI to process language. So if you ask AI to tell you a joke, it can very easily do it, right? But then when you say, okay, very funny, so it's, what you mean is it's not funny, right? When you say, okay, very funny, usually you're being sarcastic. But then AI will not be able to understand it. It would take it literally and say that I'm glad that you like it. If you want more jokes, I can tell you more. Or if you give ambiguous sentences to AI, then it will not be able to process it the way that you intend it to be processed. Now, this is according to Turnitin, and I'm sure a lot of these have been covered by other presenters. So probably you're aware that ChatGPT, for example, is good at creative writing, but it's terrible at offering factual information. It's particularly notorious for hallucinating information and making up bogus references, etc. Right? So we have to be careful when we use AI, and we have to teach, we call it inoculate, right? Like vaccinate our students on their critical thinking before they use AI. So it takes some time for an open discussion with the students and really train the students, teach the students on how to use AI properly. Now, conversational AI is not anything new. It's been there for many years. If you use Siri, which is a brand that was brought by Apple, or Google Assistant, they are also AI, but they're trained for different purposes. The data are also different. It's much smaller in terms of the size of the data. We're talking about 4 gigabytes to now people talking about 30 gigabytes of data. Terabytes of data, not giga, okay, terabytes of data. So it's like 1,000 times of GB, right? So it's enormous data. To us, they're just very big numbers. Now, AI chatbots are typically quite similar because the mechanisms are very similar, but then they have different strengths and weaknesses. And that resulted in, one of the very widespread memes on the internet claiming that ChatGPT, was very smart, like at the beginning of the year in 2023, but now it's got, a lot dumber because it refuses to answer your questions, it gives you wrong information. But honestly, it's down to how you use it and whether you're using the right AI tool, because different AI tools have different functionalities and they're geared towards different purposes. I don't have a lot of time to go in depth into it, but there is some great news in the AI world. I think this is news within the last week, so it's very fresh, like within 10 days. Windows is announcing a free version of AI that has incorporated the latest AI technology like ChatGPT 4.x, 4 point something, you only need to update your Windows to and take a few steps. You can go on YouTube and learn how to do it. I know some influencers are already taking videos teaching people how to do it. It's not very complex. I haven't done it yet, but I'll do it soon too. If you install the latest version of Windows, then you'll be able to access this Copilot. This also partly led to the change of the executive board members of the OpenAI, which is a discussion beyond this scope. So now the very important thing about using AI is to use it with good prompts, right? So recently we talked about a new job called prompt engineer, right? Or a new job title maybe. And there is something called prompt engineering. Now, prompts are likened to programming language, right? When you write a programming language, you need to know the language, right? You need to know how to write JavaScript or Python. And that usually takes a lot of time. The threshold is really high for average people. But for prompt engineering, it's much simpler, okay, because it's conversation. But at the same time, there are also techniques that you might want to follow in order for you to use the AI tool effectively. So PwC, which is a well-known Asian consultancy, conducted a large-scale study asking if respondents were concerned that AI would replace their jobs, and most of them responded yes. But what I suspect will happen is that AI will not replace jobs in a way that people think, but it will probably replace, the people who know how to use AI will probably replace those who do not. That's the cruel truth. And that is why it's imperative for the younger generation to learn AI, whether teacher like it or not. Yeah, even if you are totally against the advent of AI technology, or there are many you believe that there are many disadvantages or problems that might be caused by AI, we still have to bear this in mind, which is students' competitive edge in the future. So prompt engineering involves giving out clear and concise input. Now, I have come up with a formula myself that takes 4 elements in an effective prompt. So first, you need to mention the role or the context, and then what kind of action do you want the AI to generate? What is the objective of your prompt? Sometimes the action and the objective are the same thing, and you can combine them. And the output format, whether you want it to be in point form in a table or generated in an essay or a paragraph. So something like this. You're an experienced English teacher with the ability to explain complex topics in simpler terms. Explain with adequate examples the concept of subjunctive moods in simple terms to my 7th grade class, so they know the basics of the grammar topic. So it contains a very clear role of the AI. So you're asking AI to assume the role of being an experienced teacher, trying to explain things to 7th graders, right? Now, very often what happens is that when people type their prompts, they would directly type in the instruction, the request, right? Pretend that I'm a customer and you're an attendant at a restaurant. I'll begin. Excuse me, do you have a table yet? Right now, and then what happens is that very often ChatGPT or other AI tools will not be able to do what you intend it to do. So in this example, it generates a whole dialogue, which is what you which is not what you want it to create, right? Because you want AI to converse with you. right? So a better prompt would be to give the output format, right? Pretend that I'm a customer and you're an attendant. So you ask ChatGPT to take up a role, and then we'll converse with one line at a time. Okay, so this is the output format, and I'll begin, and the action is to converse, right? And then ChatGPT will be able to talk to you one line at a time. So it's very important that you talk about the role or the background, and also what you want ChatGPT to do and what you want it to output. Now, to save time, teachers can actually use some existing libraries on the web. This is a library that I've used myself. It's called AI for Education. You can also take notes of this website. It's very comprehensive in the prompts that teachers can use and even learners. So you can take a look. I think some of you are taking a picture, which is a good idea. So now, next section, I'm talking about personalized learning, which is one area that I am specialized in. Now, personalized learning, like flipped classes, have been there for many, many years. Unfortunately, there are many issues with personalized learning, including the fact that teachers are not trained to really offer personalized learning for students, that it's quite hard to implement in large classes, that the personalized learning are not really personalized. Because when we talk about personalized learning, we're really talking about the computer or the software having a lot of data, good understanding of the user, so that it can generate the appropriate content for the user to use and to learn, right? And unfortunately, there are a lot of obstacles, but AI can mitigate most of them, if not solve most of them. Including the fact that teachers may not have the knowledge to build a PLE, personalized learning environment, including resources constraint, large classes, students' digital literacy. We assume, many of us may assume that, the younger people are digital natives, and so they can learn new technology very quickly. But that's often not the case if we talk about using the technology effectively, et cetera, et cetera. So it can really offer a great opportunity for personalized learning. And what do I mean by that? For example, for practicing speaking, there are tons of tools now available, whether they are plugins to be added to ChatGPT or they're standalone apps that can be used on the phone. I think Dr. Koska also mentioned a few of them just now. So it's widely available. A lot of these tools are widely available for people to practice speaking. So this is the TalkPal. I've tried it myself, just for fun. And 15 minutes per day for free version. It's the backdrop of it is also ChatGPT. Now, when we talk about students' effective speaking practice, we have to draw the very important seminal theory of Vygotsky's social cultural theory, right? Zone of proximal development. So beginning from what the teacher does, and the students will just listen, right? So that's the input period. And then the teacher does the demonstration while the students assist in the process. So students begin to take part. And then the teacher can flip role with the students so that the students do the main task and the teachers assist the students. And in the end, students will be able to do things independently, right? So that is the, 4-step process proposed by Vygotsky. And we can easily achieve all of these with AI by using, a prompt writer, for example, the prompt writing formula. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to show you some results. So for example, I asked AI, create a conversation dialogue between two friends talking about tips to make the best use of university life. The dialogue is an example for intermediate level EFL learners. It should be about 2 minutes long, you see, and then ChatGPT is able to generate a dialogue and students can listen to it, right? So now there are a lot of plug-in tools that allow students to listen to and even converse with the AI. And then step 2 and 3 are guided practices. So you might want ChatGPT to assist in correcting your mistakes. And you can say, you're an experienced teacher pretending to be a friend of mine. We'll converse with one line at a time. You go first. Please pause the conversation and correct my grammatical mistakes if you see any. Okay, so ChatGPT begins. Hey there, it's great to catch up with you. How have you been lately? And then I said, yes, I'm quite good. How about you now? That's a very common mistake of Chinese students, right? They, or maybe even for other non-English speakers, because quite and quiet are quite similar in spelling, right? And so ChatGPT pauses and say, there is a mistake. So instead of saying quiet, I think what you mean is quite, or maybe you want to say rather or fairly, right? So it's able to do two things. One is to continue the conversation with you and also take the role of a teacher and correct you, right? That's another example. So what I ask ChatGPT to do is that I ask ChatGPT to go first and then give hints on what I can say next. So in one of the courses that I teach here at IFTM in my institute, I have to teach students to handle complaints. And one of the techniques that can be applied to training students to handle complaints is to ask them to talk to AI and listen to what AI have to say, what AI has to suggest the students to say, and then the students say the sentence or give the response. For example, here, hey there, it's good to catch up with you. How have you been? Any exciting updates in your life? And then AI hints you, the student. You can mention something positive or interesting happening in your life and ask about a recent event or experience I might have had. And then the student says, I'm doing great. I just came back from K-pop concert in Hong Kong. How about you? Okay, and then AI continue and give more hints, right? And then in the end, students can converse independently. And I showed you an example just now. Now another example prompt, I would like to practice handling customer complaints. You're a teacher pretending to be an angry customer, complaining about the quality of a pair of shoes you bought at a shop. I'll act as a shopkeeper. We will talk to each other one line at a time. You will start a conversation. So this does not only train the students of the English proficiency, but it also trains students on applying, particular sets of language in particular situations. In this case, responding to complaints, right? So, and then ChatGPT said, excuse me, but I'm extremely disappointed with a pair of shoes I purchased from the shop. They started falling apart after just a week of use. I'm sorry to hear that. So that's what the student typed. May I have a look at the shoes? And then the assistant said, look, what's the point of looking? they're already falling apart. I demand a refund or a replacement immediately. And then the student type, ma'am, I understand your frustration, but without examining the shoes, I'm not able to report to our company the problem and find a solution for you. And then ChatGPT responds. Okay, now, and then the students ask, let's pause the conversation here. Can you, as a teacher, give me some feedbacks on how I respond to the customer's complaint? And then ChatGPT take the head of the teacher and say, sure, I'll provide you some feedback. Your language accuracy is good. Your response was empathetic and understanding, right? Overall, your responses were effective. Okay, so you see, it's very effective in generating individualized feedback for students. Listening. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on all of these details in the interest of time, but you can do many things with AI, like, for example, dictation, right? So what I ask AI to do now is I ask AI to generate a paragraph and then pause after saying every single sentence until I said, okay. So whenever I type okay, then you continue. Then the students will be able, or you can speak out, okay, right? So remember, there are plugins that allow you to talk to AI instead of typing, right? So you see, whenever the student says okay, then the AI will continue, and then this reading the sentences, and then the students can dictate the paragraph. Okay, and in the end, you can ask AI to check the dictation for you as a student. So these are some of the things that AI can do really well. Now, for reading, I do not recommend asking AI to generate reading passages, long reading passages, because as I said at the beginning, AI is notorious for hallucinating factual information. So it might be generating content that sounds okay, but if you look closely, they're not logical. I think this aspect of AI has got better than before. That's why I say it's actually more intelligent than about a year ago. So this is an example text that I got from BBC, but it's quite difficult if you are talking about second language intermediate level learners, right? For example, if you look at the first sentence, a stream of bad news, right? Foreign investment, property sector. So these might be terms that are a little more advanced. You can ask ChatGPT to tune it down. Now, one of the things that I know, I guess a lot of teachers are probably doing is to analyze the difficulty of the text using some of these online tools like LexTutor, Text Analyzer. They can give you a rough sketch of how difficult this text is. Like in terms of the Common European Framework, it's B1 or B2 or C1, right? Do use these tools. After checking the level, you can ask AI to tune it down. So something like this. You're an English teacher. You would like to provide a class of intermediate level CFR B1 students with a reading comprehension practice. Tune down level English for the following passage. Keep a similar length of the passage. Okay. And then you can see that in this example, so the original in the original passage, it says that, where does it begin? A property crisis and poorer households central to China's economic problem is its property market. It's quite a complex sentence, right? And it's simplified here. The property market in China is causing economic problems for the country. You see, the words are tuned down. The grammar is also downplayed. Okay, so you can do a lot of things like asking AI to generate questions for you in different formats, but be careful because, again, it makes mistakes. So you have to gatekeep the quality of the questions. okay, true or false questions, multiple choice questions, and you can also build vocabulary using AI. Like for example, in a text like this, you can easily ask AI to identify some B2, C1 level vocabulary or some other vocabulary for writing, some vocabulary for reading, right? And it's able to do it very easily, distinguishing intermediate level or higher level vocabulary. Because, according to pollination, there are different levels of acquiring or learning vocabulary, right? From form recognition to being able to actively use the vocabulary. Okay, now I'm going to skip ahead a little bit in the interest of time, because I think a lot of these might have been covered in other sessions already. Like practicing writing, this is one of the most highest potential, or area of the highest potential with the application of AI, because AI can help in all the different stages of writing, such as pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and finalizing. Now, one of the challenges that my students might face is they might not be able to understand the assignment background. We call it a brief. And so, students can copy this whole brief into AI, ChatGPT, and ask it to to summarize what the students need to do or what are the requirements of this assignment. And the students can also ask questions to check if their understanding is correct or not, right? So this is, pre-writing step, very important, because oftentimes, if students are not very clear about the objective of the assignment, they end up doing the wrong thing. And, that's the last thing that a teacher wants to see, right? So here are some examples like brainstorming, organizing ideas. Can you give me some suggestions of the problem? Who I can address it to, and what are some potential solutions? Now, of course, that comes back to the question of, which part of the cognitive process is the student responsible for, as some of you might have asked this question, right? Are we indulging our students, to not thinking at all because they're outsourcing all of these cognitive activities to AI? Now, I think I totally agree with what Dr. Koska said about what we meant by creativity, and even what we meant by cognitive activity or intelligence or criticality. A lot of these terms have to be redefined because of the advent of AI. Similar to when Google search engine or Yahoo search engine first emerged, it completely redefined the word library or, some, information searching. So that's what a lot of us educators and researchers have to think about. Drafting, now, okay, so grammar also, right? Because it can offer very individualized teaching. Like, I don't know how a main clause is different from a subordinate clause. I can ask AI to do it. Now, this is part of the continued conversation. So at the beginning, I was already talking to AI as a student. So I don't need to type the context again. So now, when I said the AI prompt engineering formula, we're talking about the first time when you talk to AI. You need to give the context. You need to tell AI the action and the output. But in subsequent conversations, you can just talk freely, like a normal conversation. And AI will follow the same background information until you end this conversation and open a new one, right? Clarify grammar. For example, I've completed this exercise on tenses, mixed tenses. I want you to help me check if these tenses are used correctly, and AI can do it. Now, there are mistakes. There might be mistakes. And so it's a very good idea if AI can be used in class so that if there are mistakes, the teachers may be able to offer suggestions to students immediately, or correct the mistakes immediately. Okay, now automated feedback is a very important function of AI. So this is a very complex, highly complex prompt, and I'm going to read it. You're an English teacher tutoring me on reported speech. Give me one direct speech sentence to convert to report speech at a time. If I make any mistake, give me some hints on how to correct the sentence, but do not give me the correct answer. If the converted sentence is completely correct, give me another sentence to practice converting into reported speech. Begin with a simple practice sentence and make it harder if I can correctly handle 3 consecutive sentences. Now, even for such a complex instruction, AI can handle it. So let's see the results. So AI said, sure, let's begin with a simple sentence. And the simple sentence goes like this. John said, open quotation, I'm going to the store, or close quotation. And then the students write it and it's correct. The students write another one and it's also correct. So after a few sentences, the AI makes it more difficult, right? Tom said, I'm going to buy a new car next week. You see, this is more complex, a more complex sentence than the first few sentences, right? And so the students have to write a response for a more complex sentence. Okay, and AI is able to also correct the sentences. So good effort. However, when reporting Amy's statement, we need to use the correct pronoun because Amy is a person, right? So you need to use she instead of he. It's a female. I think what is meant is she's a female, right? Okay. So here are some of my publications, and I use this model for personalized learning, and AI can really facilitate in most of these steps in the model. So a very good tool. How many minutes do I have? I think I still have roughly 10 minutes. Now, something very important for teachers. What are some of the legal concerns of using AI? Now, a lot of these online stuff may be patented, or they might have copyright in one way or another. But I'm quite optimistic with this aspect because the pool of the data is getting very, very big. So it's very hard to say which particular part of the generated content belongs to which particular document that's available on the internet. Okay, so increasingly, it's drawing a smaller portion. So maybe at the beginning, if you think back, if you've used generative AI about a year ago, the pool was much smaller. And if you ask it to generate a passage, then very likely it will take maybe 50% directly from 1 or 2 sources. And that is plagiarism, right? But now, because the pool is so big, when you ask it to generate something, it's likely that it will only take 0.something% from a single source. And so by definition, that does not constitute to plagiarism or infringing intellectual property rights. However, there is a major concern with data privacy and security. We might not see the repercussion just yet, but it will soon be coming. If you check the official website of OpenAI, all the data that you type on ChatGPT can be used by them. Okay, so it's basically saying we have all the rights to what you type here. Okay, because you are using it free. And so whatever you type, we can keep a copy. We can use it in whatever way we want, right? So that is quite dangerous. And that's something that teachers also have to warn the students. And if you're a researcher, that also, that should also remind you that whatever you post on AI, it might be stored at the repertoire. And so, the repository. And so in the end, if your article goes through some sort of similarity inspection, it might show a very high similarity. Okay, that is something that both researchers and students have to be very cautious about. Okay, so whatever you type on AI, ChatGPT, it might be stored permanently. Okay, and of course there is this issue of liability, accountability. So when a mistake is made, who shoulders the responsibility, right? There are different debates, and I don't want to go into that. Now, I think the major issue is more on the potential misuse or exploitation. That's what teachers worry about, right? Because we don't want it to replace human interaction and human intelligence, especially in the research field. I think it's right for many journals nowadays to say, to request that no parts of the journal articles can be written by AI. Okay, it's completely correct and legitimate to have such a statement, because if we're talking about knowledge generation and we outsource it to something like AI, increasingly the knowledge would become unreliable, right? Bias and discrimination, potential increase of unreliability of information. There's some very interesting study by Stanford University about it being not environmentally friendly because it consumes a lot of energy. And also, for those who don't have access to AI, increasingly, the divide would be larger because, those who can harness the tool, can, now progress really quickly, while those who don't have access, will be way behind. Now, I'm going to talk more about some suggestions of how to inoculate students of using AI correctly. And one of the methods is called the SIFT, S-I-F-T. So when a student wants to use AI, the first thing that they should do is to stop. Stop and think, whether they want to use it, whether it's necessary to use it. All right. If they found something, they need to also stop and investigate the source. That is called lateral reading. So instead of vertical reading, I think all of us are trained to do vertical reading. We have an article, we read from the beginning to the end. That's vertical reading, right? But increasingly in today's world, we need people who are able to do lateral reading. And unfortunately, not many people can do it effectively. So lateral reading means that, you read part of one source, and then you have to very quickly jump to a second, third, and fourth source to triangulate the information and confirm that the part that you're reading is accurate. That's lateral reading. Now, this is another course by itself, so I don't have extensive amount of time to talk about it. But it's a very important skill that that all of us, including students, should have. Teach critical thinking. Now, these are some of the very traditional suggestions. Now, it's very important that you have an open conversation with students. Let them know the benefits and the pitfalls, the problems that can arise with the use of AI. Now, what I did with some of my students is I showed them the Bloom's taxonomy, and I would give them a task and ask them to come up with the purpose of this task, okay, using the taxonomy, very quickly. Usually it takes, roughly 15 minutes time. Let them think for themselves, what are the purposes of a particular assignment? And so what might be missing out if you outsource it to AI, right? So another way, of course, is to take Dr. Koska's suggestion to do flip classes. That's also one of my suggestions in my in one of my articles, to do flip classes and really do the more demanding tasks in class and allow students to do some of the learning outside. Now, unfortunately, detection of AI work is not very accurate, and as Dr. Koska just said, for some unknown reason, she just could tell whether a piece of writing is written by AI or not. It's very easy. I mean, for us, experienced teachers, I myself have marked thousands and thousands of articles, and it's very easy. I mean, when you read the few sentences that are written by AI, immediately you might be able to spot it, because it's in terms of style, in terms of vocabulary, and the knowledge of the students, they just don't align, and it. Now, if you're not the kind of teacher who are very good at detecting, students plagiarism, plagiarized or AI written text, then you might want to train yourself using Roft, ROFT.io. This is a website. This is a site on training teachers to be able to detect AI manually. Okay. Now, Turnitin reported a accuracy in AI detection of 98%. Unfortunately, according to research and also my own experience, it's far less accurate than 98%. I think it's roughly 50%, which is technically chance. So it's not really good at that. I don't have time to go into the technicality, but it's if you put in the U.S. Constitution to AI, to Turnitin, it will set it's 100% written by AI, and that must be a joke, unless George Washington is a time traveler, right? So it's something that we know that's not possible. Now, but I think the key thing is first to let students be aware of the potentials of AI and the problems of AI, and when to use it and when not to use it. And also the teacher need to change the type of activity to offer to students, and also how the activities are offered to students. These are some of the suggestions by Temple University and Turnitin to use multiple detection tools, to use multiple sources of reference, to state your concerns, show empathy. Now, when you communicate with the student, show empathy. I recently also handled a case of suspected AI writing for final year thesis. And, you have to talk to students with empathy, and so that the students can come forth and, really be honest with you. Try not to intimidate the student into some sort of penalty, because now we don't actually have concrete evidence for AI writing. So the best way is communication. Try unaidable assessments. So this is also suggested in my article. Consider assignments that cannot be aided by AI, like post-writing presentation, tasks involving role play, summarizing a lecture, or some sort of conversion task. Like, I used to do this with some former students. I played them a short clip of Mr. Bean, and I asked them to translate it into, transcribe it into some sort of text. Okay. So yeah, I think this is last bit of suggestions to, use formative assessments and do high-stake assessments in class, implement flip classes, and always inspect students' references, because these are the telltale signs that are easily spotted. Okay, if you identify one source that sounds suspicious, or if you're able to see that it's not there, it does not exist, then probably it can tell you something about the writing, right? Yeah. Document history, if the student use Dropbox or OneDrive, OneDrive support 5,000 document history. 5,000 historical documents. So, you can ask the students to present you with evidence of previous writing. Okay, so further consideration for teachers of whether you should incorporate AI in your teaching. And this is obtained from Temple University. I'm going to stop it here to let you have a look at it while you ask questions. Thank you very much. So the floor is open for questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hong, for sharing your expertise and thoughts on using ChatGPT and AI. So we have just scratched the surface of what promises to be a day filled with valuable insights with Mr. Hong. There were some questions in our minds, such as how to detect plagiarism in student-created work, which has already been answered by you. So we actually have a short time, but even then, yes, we can take one question from the audience, which is on site. So yes, no, okay. So any question from the audience on site? Okay. So can you please share your email ID?
Are you talking to me? I'm sorry.
Great. We have one question from here.
Okay.
I have a question that most of the presenters of this workshop, they have used ChatGPT as an example to explain whatever they had to. So should we assume that it is the most popular or the most effective one? None of them have used, including you, Twee or Bard or Bing. So ChatGPT is the most effective or popular or what? Creative?
Thank you very much for the question. At the beginning of my talk, I talked about very briefly about there are differences with different AI tools because of the orientation of the tools. You can check the official website to see. For example, Bard's orientation is creative writing. So you can assume that if you ask Bard to generate some sort of accurate explanation of theories, it's not going to do it very well. You know what I mean? So different tools have different edges and pitfalls. I myself have used Bing. I've also used another one, I think Delhi. I think some of them, Bing and Delhi, are not very good at translation. ChatGPT is better at translation if you want, more accurate translation of texts. So these are some of the things that we practitioners have to explore ourselves before we teach students and tell them which one to use, what to do with each of the tools.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hong, for answering this question. And thank you again for being there for such an insightful session on ChatGPT and the tools and all techniques, plagiarism check and flipped classroom ideas I have given, and all the, grammar check, and then a formula for prompting. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, so we proceed with the next proceeding, and